Mick Cronin says it's the deepest team he's had at UCLA. Jon Rothstein says this is the deepest backcourt in the country. UCLA says at Rico's runs, they're straight balling against NBA stars. This team is going to be good.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast. It's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, download, review, comment. Thanks for your support. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can make every moment more by going to FanDuel.com. Check out the boost and bonus daily offered to all customers during the summertime. FanDuel.com. Where we get started today is I'm excited, right? Mick Cronin's already come out and said this is the deepest team he's had. The only concern is center. That's not really what we're talking about today, because I saw Jon Rothstein posted social media-wise, within the 24 hours posting this, doing this podcast, said Jon Rothstein, great lover of college basketball, was talking with Mick Cronin when he said Mick Cronin himself said of the deepest team he's ever had at UCLA. Rothstein says they got the deepest perimeter team in a long time. Arguably might have had the deepest backcourt in the country. And what his quote was, Bruins might have college basketball's deepest perimeter team since Dan Hurley's last team at Rhode Island. All right? That's a current two-time winning national championship head coach who's dominating the college game now at UConn. That is what Mick Cronin has assembled here, right? And have you looked at those highlights of what UCLA's done at Rico's runs? My goodness. That highlight tape they posted against the NBAers, well, it was fun seeing the NBA Bruins get after it, playing against NBA players. And then the Bruins, almost all transfer team, all newcomer team coming in. Dude, Kobe Johnson, ridiculous, right? When he was playing some defense in those highlights against James Harden, dude, that was ridiculous. Even though he did get crossed up, fall a little backwards, his jump shot looked good. The athleticism was there. You can see the parallels and the comparisons from Mick Cronin talking about Jalen Clark. Literally, when Jalen Clark was there, Jalen Clark, Naismith Defensive Player of the Year to Kobe Johnson. Now, I'm going to stop short of calling him the next Naismith Defensive Player of the Year, but if UCLA's got that elite of a defensive perimeter talent, and you got this as your backcourt, the deepest backcourt in the country, Dylan Andrews, who is your returning starter, and after his dominance at the end of the year, proved he's got his spot solidified. He's going to get 30 minutes a game. Okay, you've got Sky Clark, comes in, double figures, led Louisville in scoring. Final output was like a 36-point game against NC State, who made it to the Final Four. Cool. Trent Perry. I've personally been sleeping on Trent Perry. Don't know what he's going to bring. The freshmen are unknowns. We've got so many proven guards, guys who are returning. It's going to be a big shuffling all the time for Mick Cronin as to who gets time. Trent Perry, my goodness, a sweet stroke. You look at him in those runs against the NBA players, confident, still a little raw, maybe unfinished, but the shooting off the dribble, ridiculous. The easy cutting ability, getting himself open with Kobe Johnson, finding a cutting Perry for a layup. Man, the ability is there, and he looked like he belonged. He certainly looks a little young and will probably have some growing pains, but the kid is good. Obviously, Mick Cronin wouldn't have gone through all that effort to steal the commitment after he put it up for grabs when USC switched their head coaches, and he decommitted from the Trojans and came to UCLA. Clear still, Mick Cronin's already raved about him, but just seeing him in action with his UCLA teammates and those Rico's runs highlights, he looked legit. And I don't really know what's going to happen nowadays, right? It's nuts. This team is going to be ridiculous. Cool. Then you got Sebastian Mack when you add that as another name returning. All right, this kid was lighting it up at Arizona, hitting threes, and nearly helped UCLA pull off an upset when the Bruins were still waiting to get good prior to their January resurgence, and almost pulled off an upset at Arizona with the team that probably wasn't the best to go do so at Tucson, and yet they almost did it anyway. Sebastian Mack, I know it doesn't seem like he's getting a lot of love from this UCLA fan base. In my way too early top five or starting five projection, I had Mack in my starting five as a returner. And, that could be a roll of the dice. I've kind of maybe started to lean a different way, but that is a guy who produced. He also had a toe injury, as some of you have said, as it's been talked about. He was dealing with the injury bug as well, having to grind through the end of the season with UCLA thinking they had depth last year. They got depth this year. And Mack is one of those guys that's going to have to re-earn his spot. Dominic Harris, the guy coming from LMU, even I think earned another Jon Rothstein tweet about him as a guy that looks like Dave Singleton 2.0, three-point shooter. Wait for him to get to UCLA. I know I think I wrongfully said that he only had 1 year of eligibility. Still has 2 because the COVID year is so crazy when you've got so many transfers in. You lose track. So apologize on that. But he technically does have more years of eligibility. And that's where this whole backcourt, outside of Stefanovic and Johnson, have eligibility, years of eligibility, including this season. That is dominance. Now, guys who ball out are probably going to go pro. You never know how it's going to play out. The portal is this looming thing. So is NIL, which entices players to the portal. But you stop at Dominic Harris as your 5 in the backcourt, right? You've got Andrews, starter. You've got Sky Clark, who puts in buckets, great catch and shoot release. Trent Perry, super young talent. Sebastian Mack, boom, boom, boom. You got Dominic Harris, awesome. This list that Jon Rothstein put out there really forgot true freshman Eric Freeney, who I believe I was looking at in those runs and looked good and hopefully is going to make a big impact for UCLA this year, whether it's in a reduced role or steal Sebastian Mack's spot. Somebody needs to be the backup point guard. That Dylan Andrews is not and should not play 40 minutes a game. He should get some rest this year. And we've seen him with cramping troubles in the past this last season, although he somewhat progressed through those. Cronin has the depth that doesn't have to override and really overuse his players this year. Someone's going to get those minutes. All right. Could it be Freeney, right? That the first commit of this pretty epic class of 24 when he committed back in summer of 23, a rising 4-star that's played some big time ball in high school and expects to be a competitor at UCLA's next level in the Big Ten. Then we can't forget the other backcourt players. Stefanovic, the vocal leader, the one who's come in, got those tough rebounds, got red hot from 3 at the end of the year, helped UCLA not have their worst 3-point shooting percentage as a program in single season history. If he hits threes, has a reduced role, there isn't a lot asked of him, then he might produce in a lesser role at a higher clip. And there's still projections from other outlets that have him as a starter, or people who watch UCLA he might struggle to get time, even though he's a leader, a vocal leader, and knew what he was getting into this year, having to earn time next to the current big-time transfer, highest-rated transfer in Kobe Johnson, who looked great, looked super athletic, hit his shots in those Rico's runs, the videos that I looked at, and he looked good. He looked legit, as much as Mick Cronin said. That is your backcourt right now. That has got to be the deepest perimeter team in the country, all right? That can a lot of really shift roles. A lot of guys that can play 2 or 3. Some of those guys play the 1 and the 2. I'm not sure anybody can play all 3 of those positions from 1, 2, or 3 all across the wing, bringing the ball up. But a lot of guys can be a combo guard, point, shooting guard. Not sure Cronin's going to use those guys in this role this year. But the names and the depth, what's already been proven across the country and other spots now come to UCLA. Dylan Andrews really taking a hold of that starter's position at the end of last year. And then guys battling at every position is only going to test this team, bring it to its next limit. And in what I believe will be arguably the team that's going to succeed the most of all the teams transitioning in conference realignment. Yeah, I said it here. Let's talk about it next on Locked On UCLA. All right, tournament seasons, playoff season, that's all come to an end. Olympic season, and I love sports. I ate it up. But they're not going to be sporting like we want them to. But even though we get fewer games, FanDuel helps me keep the sports going whenever I want. Open the app, dream up bets whenever I'm in the mood, when you're in the mood. And FanDuel during the summer, hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. Something for everyone, every day, all summer long. Head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, cruising on into the second segment of the Locked On UCLA podcast. We're talking more UCLA hoops. That's what we're getting all day today. Yes, football, I know, is still a couple weeks away from their opener at Hawaii, but today just got me excited about the basketball season. As much as I'm excited for football, just looking at those highlights got me super hyped for UCLA team. Heck, even looking at the NBA Bruins. If you can go look at the Rico Hines basketball YouTube or whatever, and you see those videos, if you haven't already, it's a couple days old by the time I posted this podcast. And seeing the NBA Bruins, right? Seeing Johnny Juzang, who just inked like a 4-year deal. Jaquez, you could see and understand why he dominated. I understand now why Amari Bailey is not getting the love right away in the NBA. Still looked a little skittish at times on the court. And then you got the young Bruins who, yes, aren't going to be as gifted as James Harden when he wants to ball for 40 points or younger James Harden. But they competed, beat him in an open run. And man, they look super scary. A team that looks destined to compete easily in a Big Ten where UCLA might be picked to finish 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, anywhere in the top 4, top 5, maybe top 6, based on how crazy projections and polls and if coaches have vendettas against one another. You never know with the media or the preseason poll. You saw UCLA football was projected to be in the 15th spot. Not sure that's where they're going to end up. And that was officially the Cleveland.com poll to project what all the Big Ten teams will be. They did a fine job. I just think they got UCLA football wrong. Where we talk about how UCLA is going to do this next year. First year, the Big Ten, transitioning into a new conference. And when I saw an article on CBS Sports talking about which teams heading into a new conference intrigue you and will be very successful in their new year, right? Now, there's many teams that are going into different conferences, right? Conferences, mid-majors are breaking up. Mid-majors are going into mini power conferences. The mini power conferences are becoming super conferences, right? The AAC used to have Houston, and now Houston's in the Big 12 with Kansas, Baylor. Oh, you forget Arizona. Cool. That's going to be the big talk of college basketball when those teams play each other in college basketball. And there's a lot of hope for former Pac-12 teams, okay? Or you talk about teams moving to the ACC or those teams moving to the Big 12. But I'm going to reckon, yes, Arizona still lost a lot. They lost Boswell. They lost Ballo. They kept Love. They got some talent coming in. USC was even mentioned by CBS Sports as a unique product with Eric Musselman coming in. You lose Bronny. You lose some of your senior talent they could have kept in Kobe Johnson, who UCLA swept up and will bring him right into a starting spot in 24 to 25. But Musselman will certainly compete Cronin for the best recruits, the best transfers, and March Madness success immediately, in my mind. However, yes, Oklahoma, Texas, although they haven't done a lot lately, UCLA is primed to be, of all these big conference teams changing conferences, and Dana Altman would like to have a phone call with me, and the new Washington head man and Danny Sprinkle, who's risen through the ranks, would like to have a phone call. I'd like to say UCLA is going to have the best season out of any of these conference switcheroos, okay? Yes, maybe Oregon State and Washington State, the Pac-12 holdovers, can go do something in the WCC and bug Gonzaga, although you expected a lot of transfers out in many of those sports with them not being power conference teams officially, unofficially anymore at the moment. UCLA is going to be a team that playing in the Big Ten, they're just going to elevate their status, I think. Big-time arenas. Mick Cronin already talked about this, going and playing in a packed arena, going and playing in a Purdue or Northwestern where 6,000 strong are going to get you revved up, going into Maryland, who they probably remember what UCLA did to them a couple years ago in that beatdown on national television. Yes, Maryland came and beat UCLA at home, but they're still going to remember that from a couple of seasons ago. Rutgers is supposed to have a very good ball club. It's going to elevate the play. Mick Cronin in the offseason elevated his recruiting strategy by maybe shifting away from internationals, focusing on what he needed, focusing on what he wanted more of, and then still getting a surplus of talent beyond what he needed, what he wanted, and hey, let's hit a home run. He hit a freaking grand slam. All right, that's what Cronin did in the portal. Stole Trent Perry after he reopened his commitment, probably a 5-star as a McDonald's All-American. And they got him as a guy, 4-star. Now you see his highlights against NBA guys. maybe a 1 to 2 year guy, 3-year guy, who knows? It's all kind of a wash when you try to predict who's going to stay for 1 year, 2 year, get enticed by the portal, maybe overly enticed by the NBA draft. But this year, for these new conference teams, all heading to the Big Ten, right? UCLA, USC, Oregon, Washington. UCLA is primed for success immediately. Easy. Okay, go Texas, Oklahoma. Okay, cool. Yeah, SEC, that they may surprise. I still think UCLA takes the pack with them. And then, yes, Big 12, they're going to point to Arizona. We're going to see right away when they play the game, that's how things are going to play out. You're going to see some teams moving conferences, yes. But UCLA is primed for success. All right? Yes, Purdue coming off a national championship game appearance in a runner-up fashion. They're all going around trying to do different things. UCLA, I think, is lined up for success with what they brought in, a team hungry after last year's semi-debacle, not making the tournament, being under 500, battling through injury. This is a team ready and primed for the most success heading into a new conference. And after watching those Rico's runs, man, just a literal transfer/newcomer team beat a hardened-led open run team. It wasn't like he was playing with stifflers. He wasn't playing with guys who aren't any good. He was playing with NBA guys. All right? Mostly NBA guys. And he was going out there, and the UCLA kids were competing. Would have been fun to watch more of the highlights between the kids and the UCLA pros. But those young, scrappy Bruins, not just what this episode is about, the backcourt, but the bigs too, man. They were looking good, and they were fired up with that big, confident dub. That's a big-time W. Yes, James Harden's not in his prime when he was putting up 40 a game for the Rockets. Okay, this is a little different. Yet, the Rico's runs tell you a lot. And Jaquez used that to his advantage, grew his senior year, and balled out. I believe he impressed heading into his senior year, learned a lot, and then became a first-round NBA pick. You can just see the confidence oozing. You can see after a few years of battling between G League, NBA, Juzang signing his contract, he's ready. And then you can see the guys who aren't ready right then and there in Bailey just needing more time, looking like, should I do it? Little tip-tap? No. Tiki-tack foul. You can see the difference between who's there and who's not. And the UCLA Bruins played like a team. You saw the Stefanoviches of the world coming off. If you look at those YouTube highlights, that is a team ready to compete against the best in the country. All right? This team is legitimate, and I think them being at the bottom of the top 20, like top 2019 in preseason polls, yes, I know the Big Ten's a gauntlet, but seeing them with an eye test, that team looks good. And that isn't even with any of the returners. Hopefully they can gel. You get Harris in there to shoot some threes, and this is a team that can come together, bypass any drama, because there are going to be players who won't play. Mick Cronin alluded to it. Everybody's happy in the summer because you're 0-0. Jobs aren't on the line yet, and nobody's had playing time, and their feelings hurt. Okay? And they're going to get playing time in Rico's runs. They're going to get playing time in practice. Their blue and gold jerseys doesn't matter because they're all starters, because they're starting to battle for their positions. Obviously, we have an idea where they're going to slot in, but how they looked, athletic, fun, young, youthful, everything. Shooting the ball well, that was fun because the Rico's runs held with UCLA. It's a partnership made in heaven for UCLA basketball, having all those stars come in, the best of the best being invited, told to go play, get some runs in, okay? So it'll be fun to see this Bruin team, I think, immediately compete in the Big Ten. That will have a lot to say for UCLA trying to win the conference in year one. But the Bruins are not going to miss the tournament. They're going to compete, and I think they'll go deep in the NCAA tournament this year. Okay? I'm excited. I am excited. And you should be excited about the one position that they're losing a couple of seniors at. I talked about this in a recent Locked On UCLA episode. They're going to lose Stefanovic. They're going to lose Johnson. They're graduating. They can't use any more COVID, transfer, redshirt eligibility. But there's a guy, one of whom I kind of mentioned has been on UCLA's radar, who the Bruins are going after in the class of 25 and look to make a big impact in their next recruiting class. We'll talk about him next on Locked On UCLA. I know you're going to want to go watch the Bruins in person. You're going to want to go watch UCLA, which is why GameTime can help. Or you want to go see the Dodgers finally make a run deep in October. All right. GameTime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier as prices on the GameTime app actually go down when it gets closer to first pitch or whatever event you want to see. Comedy, theater, musicals, you name it, they've got it. In Los Angeles, Southern California, there's events all the time, which is why you're going to want to use GameTime and save up to 60% buying last-minute tickets for all the aforementioned things. Sports, concerts, theater, comedy. You're going to be giggling, jamming with the songs, watching the big-time moments, emotionally drawn out during the theatrical events. That is how GameTime works when you just go get the tickets and save a lot of money, so you're going to enjoy it that much more. And they've got zone deals. Choose a section and let GameTime choose the seats. Because all you got to do is take the guesswork out of buying your Major League Baseball tickets with GameTime. Download the app, create an account, use Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account. Use the code Locked On College, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, cruising on here in the final segment of Locked On UCLA. We are talking about a current UCLA prospect, class of 25, who on August 16th put the Bruins in his Final Five. And this is important. I talked about this. A couple of guys UCLA wanted to go after, specifically in a position, in a skill set, in a specific size that UCLA is going to want of a ball player to come into their program because they're losing Stefanovic. They're going to lose Johnson, 6'7", 6'6", 6'8" guys. And while Daly Jr. and Bilodeau might all fit that, and William Kyle might fit that size, undersized big men 4 or 5, they want that 6'6", 6'7", three-man, that perimeter who can fluctuate, low block, high post maybe a little bit, can play the wing, can guard a couple of positions, guy who can shoot it, looks good. That's what you want. Looks good on the court, fluid motions with the jump shot, can finish near the rim. That's what UCLA wants, okay? And now that I have talked about Yesufu last time, UCLA might lose out to Kentucky in that one. He's going to go officially visit them. Nicholas Kaminia out of Harvard Westlake, kid in their own backyard, all right? They just got Trent Perry. You wonder if, hey, I went here, but I'm loving it now. Commits can always change their minds pretty much until they sign their national letter of intent. Even that still isn't that crazy because schools can still release them from that. UCLA is in on the Final Five for a 4-star product literally in their own backyard. Studio City, Kaminia, a guy who just announced his starting 5 and has begun to start going on official visits. Kaminia's Final 5, Arizona, Duke, Gonzaga, North Carolina, UCLA. Okay, now if there's a year to sit there and have Mick Cronin maybe not even talk, right? The kind of reverse psychology approach where, yes, you want to woo your recruits. He's just going to sit there and be like, just watch my team ball, all right? When it came down to it, I still got a McDonald's All-American who came from that school at the last moment, even when he committed to Crosstown. And then I had the NAL budget to go create a scholarship for a team that didn't have enough scholarship allotments. They created a scholarship. Not going to be a problem in the future when the scholarship expands to the extra 2 spots to 15 like it is for women's basketball. Now, UCLA, all they got to do is maintain the relationship with a guy who is a top 30 overall recruit, top 30 in the country, that's 6'7" build, that is what UCLA literally needs in a position of need to build for the future. Now, Mick Cronin is going to tap into the portal, right? Or he can play undersized in that position because what I just told you earlier, UCLA's got the most backcourt depth. They all have eligibility beyond just Johnson and Stefanovic. While they might not be 6'7", they can maybe have a big man and go big. They can go small, mix and match 4-guard lineups. This is a guy you want because you're not going to keep everybody happy this year. They're talented, but there's a good probability more than 1 or 2 UCLA Bruins this year on this team, regardless of if they reach the pinnacle of the sport in April, raising the banner, cutting the nets down, having the One Shining Moment song play with them as national champions in the backgrounds. There's still going to be guys who be like, I'm a transfer out, coach. That's how it's going to be. Or Cronin's going to be like, yeah, get out of here because you can go transfer as many times as you want. Okay? That is how it's going to go. Somebody's either not going to be happy or Cronin's going to be like, I kindly tell you to get out. Now that's not happening now because nobody's ticked off now. There's more spots. There's more practice time. Dominic Harris, I believe, is still finishing up classes to get over to UCLA because he hasn't even been officially announced as signed by the school. And that should be coming in the coming days. So more guys are getting more practice time, so everybody's happy. Okay? Now, you're still going to want a guy. And if you want a freshman, all right, you're going to have the 2 freshmen be sophomores. You're going to have more to gel. The real problem in this situation is, can Cronin really kind of reason with this kid and say, hey, you would be a position of need. I can't guarantee how much you're going to play right now. If you're going to play and stay 1 to 2 years, this might be the program for you. Or if he wants to go to Arizona, where you're going to see Caleb Love and guys leave at some point, you're going to see Duke. You're going to see North Carolina, although they've hit the portal quite a bit. RJ Davis is going to leave, so they're going to have a lot of turnover after this next year. Not that that really affects Kamenia. And then Gonzaga, man, they're expected to be loaded this year too in the WCC. A lot of teams probably losing a lot of guard play, and UCLA isn't. So I do think UCLA, specifically in that skill set, needs Kamenia in the class of 25. It makes a lot of sense. As much talent as they should be returning, there will be 2 guys leaving in that spot going. Then you've got a guy or 2 probably leaving in the portal. Cronin is most definitely going to get somebody in the portal. And even if he does it, it's because he did so much work in 24 that all he needs is maybe a freshman to sign in this class of 25. That's all he really needs to make this team good. And for Kamenia, you'd hope, all right, he's talking to Perry. He's talking to UCLA guys. He's saying, all right, this looks good. It's just a matter of, in his mind, what's good for him. UCLA saying, this is probably what we can offer. And at that point, it won't be guaranteed playing time. It would probably be a guaranteed scholarship and NIL throughout the roof for an ever-expanding Men of Westwood NIL budget that Mick Cronin literally ridiculed so many times throughout the season, considering UCLA the Cincinnati Reds, when this year they turned into the Los Angeles Dodgers of the transfer portal palooza of free agency, and they grabbed as much as they could, and then some, and still stole a freshman who had a late recruitment open. All right? Even Kentucky just got their in-state 4-star freshman to commit in the class of 25, right? 25, I believe he's a center. UCLA should get the kid in their own backyard where it's like, hey, this is a spot. Now, Mick Cronin only goes after specific guys, right? The right makeup, the right mindset. That's why Freeney committed so long ago. He was willing to work with the, guys coming from 1 to 2 schools like Sky Clark has, like Dominic Harris has, doing a little research and needing the scoring, said, hey, I'm so hungry to get dubs right now. We're going to compete for every spot. So it's a high level of competition. And if Kamenia doesn't want that, I don't know him well enough to say if that is or is not true, then he probably isn't going to want UCLA. Even if it's not true, it might not be the spot because these guys can make money right away instead of sitting for a season, even though sometimes that's what they need, or to stay 2 or 3 years to develop when they can go make money immediately overseas in the G League or just being a mere whiff at the NBA draft. Not saying that's what Kamenia is, but this is a guy who is looking at places out west, 2 of which are bitter UCLA rivals now in the non-conference because they're going to play Gonzaga. It's been announced they're playing Arizona 3 times the next 4 years. So whoever he chooses, he's going to see a lot. And he will see Gonzaga or UCLA year 1, and we'll see UCLA in Arizona, right, depending on how the schedules play out. Or maybe he goes to the ACC and says, hey, Stanford and Cal are there. I might have a couple of West Coast trips, some more, more just as much storied basketball history. I could go there. But it's 5 options. And I think what UCLA is going to offer is sit back, wait, and just let the season do the talking. And where Cronin's like, I got NIL. Do you have the heart to go win a spot for a team that's super deep from this hopefully super successful UCLA squad trying to do it again in 25 to 26? So that's the big news recruiting-wise, the hype from the Ricos runs, and a team that looks to have the deepest backcourt in the country this year. Ridiculous. That's why we should get your hands in an 8 clap form, UCLA fans. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.